Hi, my name is Eric. I'm here to discuss the alternative fuel vehicles. As you know, you see them all over the road, driving 55 in the fast lane. It's really annoying kind of. These alternative fuel vehicles are potentially bad for the environment, even though they claim that we are saving fossil fuels. The anticipated benefit of these cars is going to be outweighed by the future con of the batteries. These batteries are massive. They are required to drive the electric motors in the cars. These batteries are about anywhere from 20 times to 25 times the size of a normal car battery. A typical car battery is a 6-cell battery, and most hybrids range from anywhere from 150 cells to 250 cells per car. These batteries contain very precious metals in them and different elements. They are difficult to mine and obtain the different materials for these batteries, as well as the material. They are very expensive to replace when they go out, when they won't hold a charge any longer. These cars, they contain nickel hydride, or some of them do, and they have a higher sulfur oxide emission compared to a regular internal combustion motor. Traditional motors carry about 2.2 pounds per vehicle, whereas alternative fuel vehicles contain about 22 pounds. To give you a idea of how many cars there are, in 2012 alone, 235,000 Priuses were sold in the state of California. That's only the state of California. In 2011, there was 135,000 sold, and 160,000 sold in 2008. Just to give you a ballpark estimate of how many of these cars with batteries there are. Once the cars run through the lifespan, the batteries will need to be recycled and disposed of. They contain very harmful chemicals to the environment, not only for recycling but also for actually manufacturing them. Materials are resourced from all around the world. A couple of the main components of the batteries are lithium ion, and also a certain material called flake graphite. In order to, the majority of the countries that mine these different materials are not as technologically advanced countries, and so they still use typical conventional means of mining. Using big heavy equipment that also burns fossil fuels. So in turn, it is producing more pollution from mining them to produce the batteries to save the fossil fuels. These batteries also contain lead in them, which is very harmful to the environment. As we all know, you can obtain lead poisoning through if you are exposed to it for too long. We eventually will be trading our dependency on foreign oil for these materials for the battery packs. Most of these batteries contain lithium, and we obtain that from Bolivia, China, and Chile. The flake graphite that we obtain also for the batteries comes from China as well, and they will potentially hold a monopoly on this graphite because they take many shortcuts in mining. They have been actually quoted as saying they use acid to pull the metals up from the ground, and they just leave the acid to be absorbed into the underground water, thus going into the rest of the agriculture and hurting it, and potentially it comes to a decline. In order to combat these damaging batteries to our environment, there are many different ways of alternative fuels. We can use biodiesel, regular diesel, vegetable oil, and also hydrogen powered vehicles. So in conclusion, we should expand more on using biodiesel and diesel motors as a form of transportation. Thank you.
All right, Eric, you start off talking about alternative fuel vehicles, and then you finally do get to the claim. You state that they are potentially bad for the environment, so I think that's mostly the focus that you want to have. And it sounds like you're primarily focusing on the batteries there. Ultimately, that's because of their recycling issues or because of the mining techniques that were coming up for those particular points. Although other issues crop up occasionally too, and I thought it was a little inconsistent because you wandered around on this. The mining issue came up in 3 separate places. The potential chemicals that are being used in the batteries themselves, the risks that they present. You make an argument that there's kind of a problem with recycling, but I don't think that argument gets developed very, very clearly. There's an argument about how they actually put out more, I think it's SO2s, than the conventional engines do. But that's as far as you go with it. There's not really an explanation about how that is harmful to the environment or potentially complicated to any human beings, for instance. And so I think that the information seems like it is not as well organized and focused as it needs to be. The other thing that I think is problematic is that you don't give a source for any of the information. Most of what you've got that I would consider evidence is factual data about what the contents of the batteries is, about, like I said, where it's mined, about what the chemicals are that are being used. And I don't doubt that all of that's true, but like I said, that's all factual data, but we don't even get a source on that. There's at one point where you said that there's no, that the mining techniques that are going to use, they use fossil fuels in the process of doing the mining itself, and that puts out more pollution than we would ever save from the batteries and the or the alternative fuel vehicles that we're talking about here. But I didn't hear any evidence on that. I just heard your claim on that. So I'm getting a lot of claims, and I need to have more evidence to support those claims. And so that's where the issue is. It needs a little bit more organization, and it needs that the evidence be cited more clearly, and in some places that you need some evidence that you don't have here. I think you're making some big generalizations without the grounds that you need to support those generalizations. All right, thank you.